I love the YouTuber Thoughty2. He's sexy, he's got a mustache, and he's just interesting. And I watch him quite a lot, and I found this video that I haven't watched before, and I thought, why not react to it? It's called Why a Huge Chunk of Earth's History is Missing, so let's just watch it and see what happens, yeah. Subscribe if you want.
Hey, Thoughty2 here.
There it is.
If you've ever found yourself flipping furniture as you search frantically for your car keys, you'll know how easy it is to misplace something. Maybe you lost your phone, your wallet, or the will to live.
Happens all the time and it pisses me off so much. I have my AirPods, they're the thing I lose the most, my AirPods and my chain. But when I take this off, I'll swing it around and I'll drop it and it flies across the room and I just don't find it. So I never lose my phone or my keys, always my AirPod or my chain. And it's fucking annoying and I always kill myself.
But of all these, the biggest mystery is how we lost 1 billion years of history. This is far more serious than when you found your keys in the bread bin, because there's a colossal blank spot in our planet's past, and nobody's quite sure where we put it. To put things into perspective, 1 billion years is almost a quarter of Earth's existence.
That's just mad though. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old and I'm 17. What is that in a percentage? How would I work that out? 17 divided by 1 point... I don't know how many zeros are in... 17 divided by 4 billion, 500 million. Is that what that means? Alexa, how many zeros in 4.5 billion?
There are 8 zeros in the number 4,500,000,000.
I think that's correct. That's how many zeros there is. We're going to go with that. So that's how old I am compared to the world. It's 3.77777777 etc. 8 to the power of... What's that mean? I can't remember what that means. Times 10 to the power of -9. So that's how little I am compared to the Earth.
And yet, there's a 1 billion year gap in the fossil record that geologists call the Great Unconformity.
What's that?
Let's dig a little deeper, shall we? Speaking of which, if you ran outside right now and started to dig, you'd uncover older layers of rock the deeper you got. First, you'd find an Alanis Morissette tape from the 90s, maybe a disco ball from the 70s. But eventually you'd excavate some Roman coins and other assorted artifacts.
Does that mean that the Earth gets thicker with time? Or do things just sink? They're like, because if the things are like underground and then the layers and layers and layers build up on top, does that mean the Earth is getting wider? Let me know in the comments.
So, why is it that both human and natural remains sink deeper into the Earth as time passes?
He's going to tell me now, isn't he?
The Earth's surface is constantly being littered with fine particles like sand and dust. This sediment accumulates in an agonizingly slow process called deposition. Then, in another process called cementation, these mineral particles gradually bind together until, a few million years later, and sedimentary rock is formed. Then, another layer of rock forms on top of that, then another and another.
Yeah, so things are building on top of each other. Doesn't the Earth get thicker?
And so on, until the ground beneath your feet is like a trifle. A rock trifle, with millions of layers made over millions of years. And not a single one of them contains custard. What a tragedy. But during all this sedimentation and cementation, animals are doing their usual party trick of dying. All the soft...
And would that mean that the Earth's water levels are lowering? Because the Earth is getting higher, so the water stays where it is and it is lower. So it stays where it... So this is the water level, and this is the ground. And over time it goes up like that, so the water, then you jump in and you'd be like fucking down there.
Squidgy bits get eaten or decompose, but sometimes the harder bits, like bones, shell and husk, get covered in dust, slowly succumbing to the sedimentation, thus becoming encased in rock.
So it isn't getting layered.
Over time, water penetrates this rocky tomb, which dissolves the biological remains within. Eventually, minerals fill that void and form a fossil, which of course is just a rock replica of the creature that once resided
That's interesting
there.
though, isn't it?
Importantly though, that fossil is frozen in time, enshrined in the sedimentary rock from the era in which...
One more question. Do fossils stay fossils forever, or do they eventually break down themselves?
...which the animal lived. Much of our understanding of the history of the planet and life itself has come through studying the sequence of sedimentary rock layers and the treasures they've trapped through time. Often the different layers, called strata, are clear and distinct, with each revealing something unique about the age it was formed in. The stupendously
What language is strata? Is it Latin?
fun pastime of studying strata is called stratigraphy, and one of its guiding principles is the law of superposition, which states that, if undisturbed, the lower down the rock layer, the older the rock. Not exactly rocket science, but it does mean that generally when you're looking at a cross-section of geologic formations, you get a fairly neat picture of the passage of time. But unfortunately, history isn't so predictable. Whilst new layers of sedimentary rock are being formed in one location, in another, conditions can change, and sedimentation just stops. Wind and water erosion can move particles elsewhere, effectively deleting part of a geologic record.
How does that work?
After a while, sedimentation might resume in that location, but these temporary interruptions will forever leave a gap in that rock's record, and sometimes that gap, called a hiatus, can be millions of years long. It's like hitting pause, rewind, and then record again whilst in a very long conversation. In the final recording, there will be missing parts that are irrecoverable, and if these parts are integral to the meaning of said conversation, then the whole thing will no longer make any sense. When these hiatuses happen, it creates a noticeable difference in the angle, colour and texture of the new rock that sits on top, as can be seen here and here. Geologists
This geography shit is hurting my brain. I did alright in geography as well as school. I got like a 7 or something.
call this feature an unconformity. It was Danish man Niels Steensen, considered the father of stratigraphy, who first
His nose is mad. And his chin.
sketched an unconformity back in 1669. But it was a Scottish farmer called James Hutton who discovered
And that forehead's mad too.
the first significant unconformity. Whilst walking near Sicker Point in Scotland in 1787, he noticed a striking difference between the lower and upper rock formations, and so he coined a name for it. Hutton's unconformity.
Like, I can see the difference, but I don't get the difference. Like, I can see that rock's different to that rock, but I don't know why, and him explaining it doesn't make sense either. I keep clicking off the video, but my bad.
If that name sounds a little rude to you, but you're not really sure why, join the club. Anyway, the greyish lower layer of rock is made up of deep sea deposits from around 425 million years ago. But the reddish upper layer was deposited by rivers and streams about 345 million years ago. That's a hiatus of about 80 million years. It was on the back of this discovery that Hutton helped develop some major theories about the movement of tectonic plates and the forces that shape the face of the Earth.
Like, I don't get the geography, but that looks mad still. Like, and just look at it, it's like bumpy and shit and squarey. Like, how does the Earth make squares?
Of the Earth. Some geologists call Sicker Point a geologic shrine, which tells you how incredibly strange both this formation and geologists actually are. However, the most unusual unconformity was found in 1869 when John Wesley Powell was observing a strange mound. Whilst traversing the Grand Canyon, he noticed a vertical rock formation butting up against horizontal formations. Channeling the supreme creativity of his geologist predecessors, he named it Powell's Unconformity. But since then it's been more commonly referred to as Powell's Great
I don't get it, it just looks like rocks with holes in it, not gonna lie.
Unconformity.
I'm trying to listen,
and there
but
are
that makes
two
sense.
striking reasons why it's deserving of a great. Firstly, the unconformity actually spans an entire continent,
Fucking
stretching
hell.
across Laurentia, which is the name for the ancient heart of North America. Secondly, many other unconformities had been unearthed around the world at this point, but they mostly represented small gaps, on a planetary scale at least, maybe tens of millions of years. But
this was
the
like,
smallest
what was
time
it,
gap between the
500
two
mil?
rock layers in the Great Unconformity is a modest 250 million years.
That's close
And the
enough.
biggest is over 1.2 billion years.
Okay, that's quite big.
That's right. That missing piece of prehistoric pie sandwiched between these two.
Like, go back to that number a second. This is a big number, yeah. My age takes up these two zeros. So this is like bigger than I am. That's how young I am compared to the world. I take up 2 digits, and most people take up 2 digits. Although up to 99, people take up 2 digits, and sometimes they make 100. But that's still nowhere near this one, or this one, or this one, or this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. And human life has been around since what? Maybe this one? 200,000 years, and then society's what? A few thousand?
Billion years. That's right. That missing piece of prehistoric pie sandwiched between these two unassuming rock formations represents up to 1.2 billion years of missing history. And we have no idea where it went.
I've had about 53 ads this video. Subscribe so I can get monetization, so I can buy frickin' YouTube Premium.
But there's so much more to this rocky weirdness. Since Powell's grand discovery, a few more formations have been found all over the world that have the same time period plucked from their record. Together, we collectively refer to these as the Great Unconformity. It's a mystery that spans the entire planet and over 1 billion years of missing knowledge.
Like, I want to visit that. It just looks mad to look at. Like, I don't get the geography still. Like, all I've got so far is Earth is in layers over time, and sometimes wind or some shit, he said, can take away a layer and it falls down and it creates this looking shit.
Years of missing knowledge. Take the Grand Canyon example. Here, the 525 million year old Cambrian era Tapiat sandstone sits snugly on top of the 1.7 billion year old Vishnu basement rocks, dating back to the
That rock is that old. So I've got rocks outside on like the drive or whatever, or like a stone or whatever. Are you telling me that rock is like 1 trillion years old?
Cambrian era. Like I said, a time gap of 1.2 billion years. Weird, right? Scuttle over to the Ozark Plateau in Missouri, where we see a similar sight. 500 million year old sandstone sits suspiciously atop 1.4 billion year old granite, representing a 900 million year hiatus.
What, so you telling me just 900 million years just disappeared? Because some wind took it away or whatever it said earlier. It just picks up the block and just throws it.
For the sake of all that is igneous, what's the metamorphic heck is going on here?
Metamorphic, I remember that in geography. That's the type of rock. And
Some
igneous
have
is
suggested a theory to explain the Great Unconformity, and it's
sedentary
called
or some shit.
the Snowball Earth theory. It refers to a time during the Cryogenian period, around 650 million years ago, when the Earth's surface was thought to be covered by glaciers and ice sheets, like a giant snowball.
That would be
Glaciers
sick.
are capable of causing erosion on a massive scale as they grind across landscapes, and it's been estimated that they collectively removed 2 to 3 miles from the Earth's surface. Basically,
Say that an ice age happened tomorrow, or like it started tomorrow. Would humans be able to adapt to live in it now because we've got technology and shit? Like, would we be able to create an environment safe for us in the cold weather, or we just die out?
the Earth had its face exfoliated. Now, do you remember me saying that the younger rocks that sit atop the Great Unconformity all around the world date back to a period called the Cambrian period? Well,
Don't remember that.
what's really interesting here is that the Cambrian period was when the biggest explosion of life in our planet's history took place. During a tiny timeline of only 11 million years between approximately 541 and 530 million years ago, the original ancestor
The numbers are too big for my brain to comprehend. And the Earth is what, 5 billion years old or something, 4.5. And space is what? How old is the universe? It's like 10 billion, something like that. 7 billion, I don't know.
Of almost all the life forms we currently know today sprang into existence. For example, this is when fish first appeared. There was life before this event, sure, but this short window was when Mother Nature downed a Red Bull, snorted some cocaine, and hit the big evolutionary boost button.
Sounds like a good time.
So how does all this relate to the snowball Earth theory? Well, when all these ice floes started to hit the ocean, they deposited gargantuan quantities of nutrient-rich minerals into the water, where, the theory goes, it was responsible for the aforementioned explosion of life. Over 1 billion years of sedimentary rock was just carved from the face of the planet by glaciers, then plunged into evolution's breeding ground, the ocean, where the many minerals contained within acted as a catalyst.
I look at that. That is a living thing. Like, I am a living thing. I am a thing. Ignore the plaster. I am a thing, and that is a thing that was created by another thing. I think about that. Like, flesh is created by rocks and water and shit like that. Wherever he just said minerals and sunlight, and it's just mad. It hurts my brain.
For life as we know it today. So, in the end, it looks like we did lose 1 billion years of history down the back of the sofa, only the...
Quickly, I'm cutting him off. If the Ice Age is what is said to have created life, or like, big life, so you're telling me all that needs to happen is good oxygen levels, sunlight, good sunlight and heat, good water, and then a planet can have life. It all goes through an Ice Age or something. There's definitely life out there somehow then. If we have that, there's definitely life.
The sofa in question turns out to be the bottom of the ocean. But Snowball Earth remains a theory, one that was only posed as recently as 1998 by Dr. Paul Hoffman. And if you ask me, 2 decades doesn't seem like enough time to definitively explain 1 billion years of missing history. Maybe someday new techniques or technologies will rock the geology world and enable us to fill in more of the missing gaps in our planet's very long, very empty history book. But until then, the great unconformity will remain a great mystery. Thanks for watching.
No problem, baby. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want. This was interesting and shit.